Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
We completed the complex tissues found in plants last class. What are the complex tissues found in plants? Changiri, name them. Just name.
Ma'am, xylem and phloem.
Phloem. Now tell me what are the 4 elements of xylem? Adnan, just list the 4 elements of xylem.
Tracheids, vessels,
Tracheids, vessels, 2 more, which are common for both.
parenchyma,
Xylem parenchyma and xylem
fibers.
fibers. Good. Which are the 4 elements of phloem? And cell. And cell.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, child. Which are the 4 elements?
Phloem fibers.
Very good.
Floran parenchyma.
Phloem parenchyma. 2 more.
Sieve tube.
Correct. Sieve tubes. 1 more. Starting with C.
Companion.
Companion. My companion. She is my companion. We say no? So just like that, companion cells. Okay, good. Now we are going to learn about animal tissues. Just like plants, animal body is also consisting of different, or in animals also we can find different types of tissues, and they are broadly classified into 4 types. Do you know the names of any tissues found in animal body? Name any tissues. Can you name any? Anyone? Any tissue present in the body of animals? Yes?
Skin.
Tissue. It is a type of tissue. What tissue it is? None of you are remembering? At least 2 you should know.
Muscular tissue.
Muscular.
From this you understood. No, good. Muscular tissue and one more tissue. Very long. It's made up of very long cells. In 8th standard, you learn, no, the longest cell in a... Yes?
Nerve.
Nerve cell is the longest. So when nerve cells are joined together, it forms?
Nerve tissue.
Nervous tissue. Or nerve tissue, or nervous tissue, and muscular tissue. 2 more tissues are there. Connective tissue and epithelial tissue. Connective tissue and epithelial tissue you're not familiar with. So we are going to learn about these different animal tissues in detail. Okay, on the basis of the functions they perform, you can classify animal tissues into different types. So animal tissues can be classified on the basis of the functions they perform. 4 types are there: epithelial tissue, nervous tissue, muscular tissue, and connective tissue. Once again, epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissue. These are the 4 types of tissues present in animals. And how are they classified? What is the criterion for classifying? The functions they perform. Depending upon the functions they perform, animal tissues are classified into 4 types. Yes? Please mute your microphone. Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. We'll start with the first type, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue. Do you remember what we learned about epidermis? What did we learn about epidermis, children? Where is it found? Where is it found? Shivanya, where is epidermis found? Unmute.
Ma'am, it is outermost layer.
Exactly. Outermost. It forms the outermost layer in?
Cells.
In which cell?
Ma'am, plant
Or
cells.
in the outermost layer in the plant body. Your plant body is covered and protected by epidermis. Similarly, in animals, the protective tissue is known as epithelial tissue. It covers and protects the animal body. The tissue which covers and protects the animal body, you call it as epithelial tissue. The tissues covering and protecting animal body are known as epithelial tissues. Epithelium covers the organs and cavities, not only our external body surface, even our internal organs. The cavities, the space of these internal organs are also lined by epithelial tissue. It is covering the entire body, covering the internal organs, and even the lining the cavities of these organs. Some examples where you can find epithelial tissue. Skin. Skin is made up of epithelial tissue. The lining of the mouth. Mouth is lined by the mouth cavity. It is lined by epithelial tissue, blood vessels, lung alveoli, and kidney tubules. All these are lined by epithelial tissues. The lining, the blood vessels, the lining of the blood vessel, the covering of the blood vessel, and lung alveoli. Have you heard about alveoli of lungs? No. In the lungs, you can see small bubble-shaped or sac-like structures, which are richly supplied with blood capillaries. And lung alveoli are the sites where the exchange of gases takes place, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place in the lung alveoli. So lung alveoli means these are sac-like structures present in our lungs where the exchange of gases takes place. Then kidney tubules, the tubules which make up our kidney, all these are lined by epithelial tissue. It covers the entire body, covers internal organs, line the cavities present within the body. And you can find them in the skin, lining of blood vessels, lining of kidney tubules, mouth, everywhere you can find. In all these places, and more examples are there, you can find these tissues over there to cover and protect them. And another feature of epithelial tissue is that...
Can you show the last?
Yes, I will repeat. The cells in an epithelial tissue are very tightly packed. As you can see in the figure, no space in between, no intercellular spaces, because its function is protection. So if there are so many gaps in between, they won't be able to provide protection. So they are very tightly packed without any intercellular spaces. They form a continuous sheet. As you can see in the figure, no gaps in between. All of them are very tightly packed. Second point, next point. It forms a barrier to keep different body systems separate. You know that we have so many systems, different organ systems are there in our body. And in order to separate one system from the other, we need a barrier. And this barrier is provided by, this separation is provided by the epithelial tissue. Once again, I will repeat the points that we discussed about epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is a tissue that covers and protects the animal body. It covers the organs and cavities present within our body. Skin, mouth lining, lining of blood vessels, kidney tubules, lung alveoli, all these are containing epithelial tissue. Okay, Shivanya? Completed?
1 minute.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we learned that epithelial tissue, in epithelial tissue, the cells are very tightly packed and they form a continuous sheet, no gaps in between. Only then they can provide protection. If there are so much gap or space in between, they cannot provide protection. So in order to provide maximum protection, they are very tightly packed, forming a continuous sheet. It also acts as a barrier. What for? To keep the different body systems separate. So to separate the different body systems in our body, epithelial tissue plays an important role. It acts as a barrier separating different organ systems or body systems. Ashmit, clear? Is that clear, child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All have understood? No doubts, no? Yes.
Can you show
Ma'am, can you show me the last slide?
Previous one. Okay. Epithelial tissue cells, or the cells that make up epithelial tissue, are tightly packed and they form a continuous sheet. It acts as a barrier and keep different body systems separate.
Now can you show the third point of this epithelial tissue?
Skin, the lining of the mouth, the lining of the blood vessels, lung alveoli, and kidney tubules are all made of epithelial tissue. Some places where, or some locations in our body where you can find epithelial tissue. Okay. Now let's learn more about epithelial tissues. The permeability of the cells of different epithelia plays an important role. Epithelia plural, epithelium singular, epithelia plural. The permeability of these cells present in an epithelial tissue play an important role in the exchange of materials between the body and external environment. Children, you know that it is forming the outermost covering of a body. So the permeability, already you learned what is meant by permeability, ability to, or its ability to permit substances to pass through it. That is permeability. Permeable means it will allow substances to pass through. Impermeable, it will not permit. Semi-permeable, it will allow selected substances to pass through. Okay, so the permeability of the epithelial cells play an important role that decides or that helps in the exchange of materials. So if the cells are permeable, it will help in the exchange. If it is not permitting, then these materials cannot be exchanged. So that is one important point. The permeability of the epithelial cells is very important in deciding the exchange of materials. If the materials need to be exchanged, this outermost covering should promote or permit the exchange. Otherwise, materials cannot be exchanged. Hope you understood the point. Only if the cells are permeable, materials can be exchanged. If they are not permeable, it will not permit substances to move through. That is why it is said the permeability of these epithelial cells play an important role in the exchange of materials. Between what? Between the external environment and also the body. Say, for example, your skin. If you're through your skin, if something has to enter, and through your skin, if something has to move out, the cell should be permeable. Clear? I hope you're understanding the point. Anything entering or leaving the body, any particle or any substance which is entering our body and from the body going out, that should pass through at least one layer of epithelium. So if anything has to enter or leave our body, it has to pass through the epithelial tissue. At least one layer of epithelial tissue it has to cross. They have only a small amount of cementing material between them. Cementing material means material that keeps the cells together. There is a little or a small amount of cementing material between them and almost no intercellular spaces. So epithelial cells are so tightly packed. Already I told you about it. The cells are very closely packed without any intercellular spaces, because one of the main function of the epithelial tissue is to provide protection. So there should not be any gaps. Epithelium is usually separated from the underlying tissues by an extracellular fibrous basement membrane. So that point I'll make it clear. See children, you know that epithelial tissue, it's the outermost tissue. Epithelial tissue is the outermost layer. So beneath that, layer, other cells are there. So other cells will be present beneath the epithelial cells. So what it is mentioned is, an epithelium or all epithelial tissues are separated from the underlying tissues, those tissues which are lying beneath, by means of an extracellular basement membrane. So there is a membrane, extracellular. It's not made up of cells, an extracellular fibrous. It's a fibrous layer. It's a basement membrane. You call it as basement membrane because it is separating the epithelial tissue from the other tissues lying beneath. Once again, I will repeat. See, many cells, our body is made up of many cells. And the covering, the outermost covering is epithelial tissue. So between the epithelial tissue and the underlying tissues, there will be a separation that is known as, or that is made up of a fibrous membrane, or it consists of an extracellular fibrous basement membrane. What is the significance of this membrane? This membrane separates the epithelial tissue from the underlying tissues. Once again, I will repeat the points. The permeability of the epithelial tissue is very important. Why? Why do you say that the permeability of the epithelial tissue is very important? Because only if it is permeable, materials can pass from the external environment to the body and from the body to outside. So that is why we say the permeability of epithelial tissue or the epithelial layer is very important. Only then materials can be exchanged between the external environment and our body. Anything entering, any particle entering or leaving our body should pass through at least one layer of epithelium. So it's providing protection. It is deciding what should enter and what should leave our body. And these cells are very closely packed, no intercellular space, very less cementing material. Cementing material means something which cements them together, holds them together. So that is very little. So with very little cementing material, they are kept together. And then I told you that there is an extracellular basement membrane, which is fibrous in nature, to separate epithelial tissue from the underlying tissues. Is this much clear? Are these points clear, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Any line to be repeated? Any point you need clarification? All fine.
First one.
This here, this slide.
Yes, first.
Yes, the first point, the permeability of the cells of various epithelia. You know that epithelial tissue is made up of epithelial cells. These epithelial cells should be permeable. It can be permeable, impermeable, semi-permeable. But the permeability of these cells will decide The exchange of materials between the external environment and our body. If something has to enter our body from outside, or if something has to leave from our body to outside, it has to pass through this epithelium. So its permeability is very important in deciding the exchange of materials. So before we learn about the different types of epithelial tissue, you have to learn about different types of epithelial tissue. So before that, the points that we learned, we will see whether you have understood. Which are the different types of animal tissues? Surya Narayanan, many videos are of, I will not mark attendance. It's not only that I will not give attendance, but I will speak to your parents also to know the reason for the same. Some are purposely turning it off. See? Varada, Sarhad, Raulgar, Abhinav, Sachin, no use of saying. I'm fed up of saying. The next thing what I can do is visit your house. You said it is there at Valivarambu, no? He escaped. Oh, he is there. Okay. Okay, who is going to say? Whom did I ask the question? Okay. Say. Mishal. Name the 4 types of animal tissues. 4 major types.
Ma'am, that first.
Tell me the 4 types of animal tissues.
And the first 10 means I have some audio issues, so I was not able to hear those.
That is not an excuse, Mishal, because as and when you are saying I am displaying all the slide again and again. If you had missed, you could have asked. Gino? Don't take too much time. Speak, Gino. What are the different types? I'm not able to hear you. Joseph? Joseph, name the tissues. If you can't even name, how are you going to list out the different points about epithelial tissue? Yes. Yes, Ashmit, tell me.
Epithelial tissue.
Epithelial tissue.
Connective tissue.
Connective tissue.
Muscular tissue.
Muscular tissue.
Nervous tissue.
Nervous tissue. Very good. Mishal, repeat these 4.
Epithelial tissue.
Where have you gone? I can't see you. Epithelial tissue.
Connective tissue.
Connective tissue.
Muscular tissue. And
muscular tissue and nervous tissue. Joseph?
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat quickly.
Epithelial tissue.
Epithelial machine.
No.
Epithelial tissue.
Connective tissue. Animal tissue.
We are learning about different animal tissues. So you don't have to say it is an animal tissue. Epithelial tissue. Second one what?
Connective tissue.
Connective tissue.
Muscular.
Then muscular tissue. One more. Nervous tissue. Gino's audio problem is there, I think. Just try, Gino, whether you can say once again. No. Check your audio, okay? Rectify it by next day. And what are the other points we learned about epithelial tissue? Shangari? What are the different points? One point you can say. Epithelial tissue, we discussed so many points. Tell me any one point.
Ma'am, it is the covering or the protective.
Okay. Protecting what? Protecting what? Animal body. Okay. Next point, Steve.
Epithelial covers most of organs and cavities.
Cavities. So it covers organs and cavities within our body. Alina, next point. All get ready so that we can save time.
Epithelial tissue, they are tightly packed.
They are tightly packed without any intercellular spaces, or they form a continuous sheath. Rudra?
Ma'am, the skin, the lining of the mouth.
Yes, Rudra.
The
Louder.
the skin, the lining of the mouth,
Skin, lining of the mouth.
the lining of the blood vessels.
Yes. Then
Lungs,
kidney
alveoles.
tubules, lung alveoli. In all these places, what can you see?
There are epithelial tissue.
Which tissue?
Epithelial.
Yes, epithelial tissue can be found there. Then what else? Fatima to Shaza? Shaza?
Yes, ma'am.
Next point.
It also varies to different body.
It acts as a barrier, keeping
to keep different body system
separate. It will act as a barrier, separating different body systems. Good. Next point. Anlia?
Ma'am, they only have a small amount of cementing.
They have a little amount of cementing material and they have
There are no
intercellular spaces. Next point. Next point. Neema? Neema?
Ma'am, anything entering or leaving the body must cross at least one layer of epithelium.
Now without referring. Say once again.
Anything entering or leaving the body must cross at least
one layer of epithelium. It should pass through. Then what separates the epithelial tissue from the underlying tissues? Who can tell? Asin? What is separating epithelial tissue from the underlying tissues?
Extracellular fibrous basement membrane.
Good. Extracellular fibrous basement membrane.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, children. See you next class. Next class, when you join, be prepared to write the test. Okay, based on this chapter till animal tissues. Animal tissues not included. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.